Hello my dears, welcome back to another video. So today I'm in a hee hee ha ha mood. I'm in the mood for some comedy, some hee hee ha ha therapy. I saw a video on TikTok about a comedian making a joke about white privilege, and I actually thought the jokes were really hilarious. And I kind of thought about, do you know what? White privilege is something that is spoken about quite a lot in recent times, and it's such a touchy topic, I guess, if you will. And I think that a lot of people kind of feel quite scared to challenge it and to kind of speak about it. And so I kind of appreciated what he was doing because he was raising some very good points, but in a way that was very digestible and quite funny. I think, you know, when you talk about social issues, sometimes it can get a bit bleak, and it's nice to sometimes use comedy as a way of talking about these subjects from time to time. And this is the reason why I'm so against comedy being censored, because I think that comedy is a really, really good way of uniting people and to challenge ideas, but in a way that's more digestible and a lot less serious. So that is what we're going to be reacting to today. We're going to be reacting to some comedians making some jokes about white privilege. But before we do, I would like to let you know about today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a food delivery service that provides you with fresh ingredients to your front door every week. So I'm currently babysitting my siblings at the moment, and so we've been having HelloFresh over the past few days. So the first thing that I really liked about HelloFresh is how, because they deliver the food to your door, I didn't have to go shopping. The idea of going shopping with my little hyperactive brother, I'm not gonna lie, doesn't excite me. But my favorite part about HelloFresh is just how fun it was for me and my little sister. My parents are very militant when it comes to education. So one of the main things they stressed before they left was make sure she does her homework and make sure she practices her reading. So me trying to be big brain, right? I was like, I can kill two birds with one stone. HelloFresh gives you these recipe cards, which gives you full details of all the ingredients that you need and all the appliances. And on the back, it's also got all of the instructions on a step-by-step on exactly how to prepare each meal. So what I would do is I would give that to my little sister and I'd get her to read all the instructions to me and tell me which steps came next. And it was brilliant because technically she was doing homework because she was practicing her reading, but she had no idea. She was just thinking, I'm just helping big sis cook, but nah, girl, I'm getting you to read. What's good? So this evening we are going to be making the chicken fried rice. Now I will be swapping out the mushrooms for some sweet peppers because there is absolutely no way in hell I'm going to successfully convince my little brother and sister to eat mushrooms. That's one of the things I really enjoyed about HelloFresh, is just how easy it was to customize the dishes. I found that to be quite a helpful thing because, you know, when you've got young kids, there's certain things that they won't eat. So you kind of have to be mindful of that. I also feel like HelloFresh was quite a fun way for me to also discover new ingredients. Overall, I would say our first experience with HelloFresh was great. We really enjoyed the recipes. They were very delicious. To try HelloFresh, use my code to get 65% off if you're in the US. If you're in the UK, you will get 60% off your first box, along with 25% off for 2 months. But wherever you're watching from, you will get a special discount using my code and link, as it is valid internationally. Thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel.
My neighborhood really was just poor black and poor white, and so I hear a lot about white privilege, and I'm like, man, missed that. I mean, I knew some motherfuckers with sweaters, okay? Don't get me wrong, you know? But I was 2 tank tops in the winter. And my black friends would get mad at me, man. Like, man, look what you did to us, man. Look what you did to us. Like, bro, do you think I would do all that and move right next door, bro? Now, we gonna split these plums or not, man? Fucking, we're down here together, dude. You think I took all your and just don't have it? Somebody else has both of our and they're watching us fight over it.
I love that. I think that is a perfect encapsulation of identity politics and what it does to people. It ends up making you fight people who are on your side. So I think it's crazy how we divide ourselves on things like race, and we divide ourselves on gender, and we divide ourselves on sexuality and all these other things, when the reality is we're all down here together, guys. But yet we allow things like mainstream media and politicians to convince us that our neighbors are our enemies. You will always have more in common with your neighbor than you will ever have with these politicians. politicians or with these elites. And when you think about all of the worst things that have happened in human history, they were done by governments. They weren't done by the guy across the road just because they're a different skin color to you or because they're a different sexuality to you. They were done by elite establishments. And I think the problem that we have is that you look at historical figures who have done really terrible things and you focus on their identity. Whereas I think, no, you should focus on the power that they had.
People always say, name one thing a white male can't have. Okay, an opinion. The second a white guy even starts to have one, the entire internet is like, your privilege is showing. Let a white guy express himself. Because if you don't, they bottle up all their feelings. And then they walk into a voting booth every 4 years, and the rest of us are like, how the did this happen? That's how!
I like Akaash. I'm familiar with him because sometimes I tune into the Flagrant podcast that he has with Andrew Schultz. And yeah, no, I think he's absolutely spot on. At the moment, we do have a culture where we're kind of making white people feel as though they're not allowed to have opinions and they're not allowed to express those opinions. This whole idea of not allowing people to have opinions because of their identity, it doesn't really work, because just because you stop someone from talking doesn't mean they're not going to let you know how they feel. Because I think what he described is exactly what happened with things like Trump and Brexit. People were so shocked with Trump and Brexit, but when you think about it, it makes sense, because when you make people feel as though they can't express themselves and they can't share their opinions and stuff, they'll just think, okay, fine, I won't say it out loud, but when I get in that voting booth, you'll know exactly how I feel.
A lot of racial talk these days. White privilege, that's a term you hear a lot now. White privilege. I was at a grocery store recently with a friend of mine. He's black. I stole a candy bar. I love to steal. I get a little rush from stealing. I get outside. I'm all proud of myself. My friend goes, white privilege, white privilege. I was like, "What? No, this was a robbery." If I had gotten caught and gotten away with it, that would be white privilege. This is me being an amazing thief. And he was like, no, it's white privilege. The guy didn't follow you around the store. He followed me around the store. And I was like, well, yeah, that's why I brought you.
I mean, it's teamwork.
Yeah, hi. This is just a little message to all the white people who think they know what the hell they're talking about this Will Smith and Chris Rock situation. Stay in your freaking lane. You do not have the right to talk about black people and their issues. I'm sorry, are you black? I'm sorry, are you a black person of color? Yeah, I didn't think so. Because there are rules, okay? If you are a black person, you are allowed to go up and hit a black man because you're protecting. You heard his speech. If you're a black man protecting black people, then you can hit a black person to protect black people, which is okay. Violence isn't good, but if you're white and if you're white, you can hit. You can't hit. If you're black, if you like Russian people, you're racist, and you just know that. It's true.
I love satire. It's one of my favorite forms of comedy. But the whole Will Smith situation in general is just a whole situation. I would actually like to know what your thoughts are on the Will Smith and Chris Rock debacle, because I know that Chris Rock recently had his comedy special and I did watch it. I do think he kind of went in. I don't think he was as brutal as people are making it seem, but I do think he did kind of go in on Will Smith in his comedy special. And I did see that there were reports of Will Smith saying that he felt very deeply hurt by what Chris did. And I'm not going to lie to you, Will Smith, you slapped him across the face on national television for making a G.I. Jane joke. First of all, G.I. Jane is a badass. So I don't even know why that joke was offensive. People said it's because she's got alopecia or whatever, but Jada Pinkett Smith herself has made jokes about her alopecia. And she even put up a tweet saying the reason why she buzz cut her hair wasn't because of her alopecia, it was because Willow Smith had done it. She's made jokes about her alopecia multiple times before. Now, does that mean that she's going to be happy when someone else does it? No. And she doesn't have to be. Her response to that joke was perfectly fine. But for Will Smith to be very unprofessional, stroll on stage and assault someone on national television and then scream profanities, and then for him to say he's deeply hurt with Chris Rock making jokes about the situation in his special, I think is just ridiculous. But I also found it really hilarious when people were saying that, it's a disability. Considering there are people who have very severe cases of alopecia where all of their hair is completely gone. Jada Pinkett Smith is not one of those women though. And I can understand still having sympathy for her, because obviously it doesn't make it necessarily fine. Just because there's some people who have it worse doesn't mean that hers doesn't necessarily still upset her or make her feel sad. I get that. But I just think it's a bit wild that people are claiming she has a full-blown disability. Someone made a good point, right? And I thought it was hilarious because they were like, men lose their hair all the time. Male pattern baldness is a regular thing that occurs. No one cares. But when a woman has a tiny bit of alopecia, suddenly she's now disabled.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what the is going on. But I think white women started it. It's the worst. The worst. It's all they do is bitch, moan, and complain. I had no idea how difficult it was to be a white woman in the United States of America. Evidently, it's really difficult. Yeah, they're always bitching. Do you have any idea what it's like to be me? Well, I imagine it would be slightly less awesome than my life. What happened to you today, sweetheart, huh? Did they not chill your rosé? You know? Was the trolley not running down at the mall? What happened? No, it's unreal. I'm really annoyed how white women have the balls to throw my white privilege in my face, you know? Sort of separate themselves from these white males with their white male privilege. It's like, bitch, you're sitting in the jacuzzi with me. The are you talking about? Yeah, quit your whining. Look, right out of the gate, all right? If you live in some honey boo-boo lifestyle on the Appalachian Trail, you know, your uncle just banged you in the dirt, all right, I can listen to you.
Do you know, it's really interesting because I feel like there is this speculation that a lot of these ideological activism movements are being pushed by a very particular group of people, which is academic, affluent white women. And to be honest with you, although I don't think it's that simple, I don't think you can just pinpoint one group and say that they are the cause of all of these problems. I understand why some people have come to these theories, and I think it's because when you look at a lot of the ideas that are being pushed, a lot of the time they are being pushed by academics who fit that description. The author of White Fragility, you know, she fits into that category. And when you look at some of the people who have contributed to some of the literature for, you know, the fat acceptance movement, again, they kind of fall within that description. Personally, I don't think it's necessarily like a white woman problem. I actually think it's an academics problem. I think that academics are the cause of a lot of our problems. It's always the academics who are writing these books and who are teaching these ideas in universities and all this kind of stuff. I don't think it's a coinky dink, you know, that a lot of the people who end up having a lot of woke ideologies are either people who are chronically online or people who went to university. Because when you really take the time to sit and analyze many of these ideas, you realize that they don't make a lot of sense if you don't come from a more affluent background. And I don't think it's a surprise that the people who have the time to care about this stuff usually tend to be more middle class. People who come from a more working class background, typically, if you ask them what they think are the biggest political concerns, they will list things like the economy. They'll talk about tax rates and stuff like that, or the cost of food, or the cost of utility bills, etc. When you are wealthier and you come from a more affluent background, you're not constantly worried about money, so it gives you more free time to care about all of these other issues. And I also wonder as well if it's because working class people are less likely to be able to go to university because it's so expensive. They're less likely to be exposed to all these sociological ideas unless they spend a lot of time online. And I'm not saying that some of these more woke ideas, or whatever you want to call them, are not worth addressing or not worth talking about. I think we should talk about them, but I also think to some degree we also have to acknowledge that you can't expect people who come from poorer households to care about these issues when they're struggling to keep their lights on. My view on white privilege is that I think that sometimes what people attribute to white privilege is more so majority privilege. I think if you live in a country where you are the racial majority, there is the benefit that comes with that. But in regards to saying that white people have privilege purely because they're white, I don't know if I buy it. I can believe that there was a time when that was true 100%, but in 2023, when I see Dr. Scholler go on national television regularly and talk about how white people have caucasity and how white people are basically the worst things to ever happen to humanity, and the fact that she still has a platform and nothing happens to her, I could be convinced of black privilege. I'll be honest with you. I could be convinced of black privilege because the amount of things that I've seen people get away with that I know for a fact that if a white person did it, they would absolutely not get away with, it makes it hard for me to try and argue that black privilege doesn't exist. Maybe white privilege exists in other parts of the world. I know that there are definitely some countries that do put white people on a pedestal and do treat them better because they're white, but in the West, I don't know if I'm convinced, you guys. I'm sorry. But do let me know in the comments what you think about white privilege, whether you think it's real or whether you think it's not real. I would love to know the reasons why you do or don't believe it's real. Well, if you enjoyed this video, then you may as well like and subscribe. I am also on other socials and I make music if you'd like to check me out. Links to all of that will be in the description box. Thank you very, very much for giving me your time today, and I will see you in my next video.